How much do you need to retire comfortably? What if I told you that most Australians aren't on track to a comfortable retirement? I want to talk about just a couple things that you can do to make a huge impact come retirement and be the difference between living off the age pension and really thriving throughout your retirement. As far as how much you need within superannuation to retire off comfortably, if you're a single, come that time, we're assuming retirement at age 65 based on these figures, you'd be aiming for $595,000 within superannuation. And as a couple combined, you're looking at about $690,000 that you want to be aiming for. And then what that looks in actual annual living expenses. So as a single, to live comfortably throughout retirement, you're looking at about $51,500 per annum in expenses. And then as a couple, about $72,500 in expenses there. So we've seen how much we need to retire comfortably. The next question is, are we on track towards that? Well, based on the median account balance for an Australian superannuation fund, between the ages of 60 and 64, as you can see here, we have a huge shortfall. For a male, the median account balance is close to $212,000 come that age. And then for a female, we're looking at $159,000 come retirement. So as you can see, this is actually a huge deficit, okay? For a couple, the shortfall is close to $320,000 that they're short by having in superannuation come retirement to live comfortably. For a single male, the shortfall is $383,000. And then for a single female, it's $436,000. So there is a problem, okay? We are not on track towards those comfortable retirement figures. And that's not a good thing. So we know that there's a problem, but what can you do to help this? The first point is potentially retiring later, which is not ideal. Ideally, we all want to retire earlier. But if you were to push back the retirement age from 65 to, potentially 70, you'll be making the government happy, that's one thing, but you won't necessarily be making yourself happy. The other thing you can do is potentially like a transition to retirement strategy, where rather than completely quitting work come age 65, you can transition, so you can go from 4 days a week, 3 days a week, progressively dropping that, and then even potentially working a day, a fortnight, for example. It's good for mental health, and you also get a bit of pocket money as well, which can help. But again, that's not ideal. What you really want to do is have your money working for you. So the big one here to boost your super, there's a few points that we can do to really make a huge difference over time. The first is to check for lost super. Now, when many of us switch jobs, sometimes our super doesn't come across with us as well. We don't fill out that employer choice form, and we have different super scattered across different funds, and then fees slowly bring it down over time. So what you can do is actually log into the ATO MyGov website, and then from there you can see where all your superannuation is. And generally speaking, it's better to have it consolidated into the one fund. That way you're not paying multiple sets of fees and you know exactly where your money is. So that's the first point. The second thing too is moving to a fund where you have generally lower fees. Now, having lower fees means you have a lower hurdle that you have to overcome as well. If the fees are way too high, you have to get really, really good returns to overcome that, and it can be quite difficult. The third point here is stronger long-term performance. Now, it can be quite simple. Generally speaking, a lot of us are in a balanced option where we have quite a large portion of our portfolio sitting in defensive assets like cash, fixed interest, or Islamic bonds, things like that. And historically speaking, they haven't really performed that well over a long run. You'd be wanting to go into more higher growth investments like shares and property of that nature. And then generally speaking, they do outperform over time. We've done a video where we've spoke about that in depth. The next point here is contributions into super. Now, many of us have our employer contributing money into our super, and that does progressively get more and more over time. But if you really want to boost things, you can actually make voluntary contributions into super as well, such as salary sacrifice or after-tax contributions. And that can make a huge difference, and you can potentially get tax deductions and government co-contributions and everything like that. And the last point here is strategic advice. Now, obviously us at Purewealth Services, we really specialise in halal superannuation, and we give strategic advice with different contribution strategies and I guess opening doors that you might not have known about as well, which can really also boost your superannuation. So let's break down an example scenario where we can really see the impact of what this is going to have. So we're taking a standard 35-year-old situation. They're earning $100,000 in employment income, current balance in super of 50K, and they want to retire at age 65. Now, the 3 points here are super important. So number one, they're in an expensive super fund, which is just costing them more than they need. Number two, they're in a balanced option that's underperforming as well. Someone this age generally shouldn't be in a balanced option within their super. And number three, they're only making their employer contributions. They're not making any voluntary contributions on top of that. So let's project their retirement and see what it's going to look like over time. So in this example scenario, as we can see, come age 65, they would have about $256,000 in super, which is really poor, really poor, okay? They're gonna be working for a 30-year period. The super's only gonna go from 50K to 256K, which is really not ideal. And then essentially what's gonna happen over time is, as you can see, with their income there, the first couple of years, they're gonna be drawing everything from their superannuation. Once the age pension kicks in, that's going to be their main source of income throughout retirement. And I've seen clients that are essentially living fortnight to fortnight off the age pension, and it isn't a comfortable way to live. So this is not an ideal scenario. So the next question arises, what can we do to change this? Okay, we definitely want to change this scenario. So it's as simple as 2 points. Number one, getting into a powerful halal super fund. And number two, salary sacrificing into superannuation. Now, by switching into this halal super fund, number one, we're going to go into that higher growth option. And point number two here is the fees are going to be cheaper compared to their current fund. So the combination of higher performance and lower fees, as you'll see, will make a huge impact. And then with the salary sacrificing, we're saying here $200 per week into super. And then the beauty is they're able to claim a tax deduction from that, and just based on $100,000 a year in taxable, in assessable income, you can see about $1,750 per annum in tax savings that they'll also receive. So they're boosting their super and saving tax in the process. So let's see what difference this makes come retirement at age 65. $885,720 projected balance come age 65. This is over 600,000 more in super just from these two switches. What does that look like from an income standpoint? As you can see here, we're looking at about close to $72,000 per annum that they're able to generate to meet their retirement living needs. And from here, the light blue line, that's the drawdown from their superannuation. As you can see, it's obviously meeting a lot of their income needs because they have such a high balance in this projected scenario. And then progressively, the dark blue line, the age pension starts to kick in as well. So if we're going to compare the two scenarios, this is the breakdown of the current one. And now, as you can see, the target scenario for a comfortable retirement for a single, $595,000 in super. So there's a huge shortfall there. Whereas with the proposed scenario, $885,000, from the two simple switches, we're able to generate over $628,000 more in super come retirement. This is an extra $29,000 per annum that this client's going to have throughout retirement, just from these two simple switches. It doesn't take a lot to make a huge difference. So if you want to really live that dream life that you're after, have a chat with us. It's what we're here for. We offer a free 20-minute initial chat as well, where we can just get to know your advice needs and see if or how we're going to be able to help you. If so, we can, as you can see, we can potentially add some huge value to you. Now, some quick disclaimers. So obviously this video is general in nature. It doesn't take into account your personal circumstances, financial situation or needs. So please reflect on it before acting on it. And then obviously we've based a lot of this video off assumptions, third-party websites as well. So please refer to those websites, or alternatively, you can get in touch with us and we can provide that full list of assumptions and disclaimers. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you for joining us, guys. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.